Rumba. I'm a member of United Christian Fellowship, and we're here to bring another episode of UCF TV. If you didn't know, this is something new that the church has started where we discuss different issues and we interview members of our church and of the community on different topics. Of course, as you know, the big topic has been COVID-19. Our episode today is Reopening Safely, the church's response to COVID-19. And I actually have here with me one of our members. His name is Dr. Jeff Urieto. He is a family physician here in Dallas, Texas, and he's also the committee chair of UCF's own COVID-19 response team. All right? How are you doing, Dr. Jeff?
Doing good today. Thank
Great.
you very much.
So we can go ahead and go right to it. We have a lot of questions I'm sure you guys want to know the answers to. So please feel free to follow us on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, and we have a YouTube channel, UCF Arlington. Make sure you subscribe, share, and then also feel free to comment if you have any suggestions, questions, anything of the sort. All right, Dr. Jeff, so our first question I have for you today is basically about how Pastor has mentioned many times the Coronavirus Response Team. Who are the members of this team?
All right, so this response team, the function was for Pastor to give recommendations to the church on what we can do during this pandemic. And he chose, with the church council, a group of medical team members from the church that can give him advice and recommendations. The church members include me, of course, and the young lady here, she's a member as well, and then Sister Shelley, Sister Ola, Dr. Erezi, Dr. Yetunde, I think Pastor is part of it as well. And I think I have named everyone as part of the team, and it's a great team.
Yeah. So people from different professions in the medical
Yes.
field, would you say?
Yes. Pharmacists, doctors, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, those practicing now, those not practicing, a whole bunch of different perspectives.
What is the current state of the COVID-19 crisis in the U.S. and in Texas?
Well, if you had interviewed us 2 weeks ago, we would have said it was going great. But unfortunately for some states, they have gone through their peak and they're doing well. Other states, which now includes Texas, we are now trying to get to our peak again. So it is a state of shock, but luckily, due to the experiences of other states, I think we can deal with it more effectively than those states did.
I agree. I was saying earlier that I think Texas is now the new New York.
Yes.
New York had the surge and now it's reached the south. Texas
Yeah.
is the new
New York. And you make a great point. To even make it more specific, it more likely looks like it's going to be Houston, Texas. It's going to be the hot spot. But it doesn't mean that Dallas or Arlington is out of the loop. It just means that, like she said, we are more than likely going to be the new hot spot.
So our church has been very cautious about the issue of reopening for on-site services. Can you tell us why?
Oh yes, the church being a part of social organizations that try to keep people healthy in general, especially a church like ours, which is very hands-on and we love each other so much. You want to keep everybody safe. So part of what the church has been trying to do is to find the best way to keep the members safe. And that was the number one thing. With or without recommendations from the state, the county, or the federal government, the church has been trying to be proactive in things. Even before the crisis hit its peak initially, tried to keep the areas clean, tried to do more sanitizing, trying to educate the members on what to do because of the virus.
So initially, we thought that the church might reopen maybe the end of this month, but now it's been moved to the end of July 22nd to be exact.
Yes.
And that's going to be, it correlates with the July 4th holiday. What's the relationship between, waiting after the 4th of July holiday?
Okay. Yeah, it's not to criticize anybody from church, but as we know, the 4th of July is a big holiday. Whether the state or the federal government puts in laws and mandatory stuff, you cannot guarantee that there will not be a bunch of people meeting. So church members could get in contact with that, and this virus is kind of impressive that it just infects anyone. So that's the point church is trying to do, which is a great idea. One thing to mention is that everybody can notice after Mother's Day graduation, we're going up again, because during those times and the beginning of summer, everybody started gathering again, even with the recommendations that we have so far. No matter what anybody says, there are going to be fireworks. You're going to hear fireworks next weekend, July 4th. People are going to be gathered. So the church decided, okay, and with our committee, that hey, maybe we should give time to see what happens after July 4th. And then after July 4th, there's no other major holiday until Labor Day. And Labor Day, we really don't do as much as July 4th.
Very logical. It makes sense when you put it in that perspective. So there are many people that believe that young people, healthy people, can't be affected by COVID-19. How true is this?
Well, that is not true. It's kind of a myth. The main point is that young people like you guys, everybody else here, can survive and do well with it and might not even show any symptoms. That's the point. But the issue is that because of that, and because you gather and you talk to grandma, grandpa, you talk to the little ones, or you hug the kids, then that's when you become more of a problem. So no, young people can be affected, but yes, they can go through without even showing any symptoms at all. But they can be a carrier, which is the main problem we worry about. Even the governor of Texas 2 weeks ago was trying to accuse young people of not listening, which was not fair. That's not the point, because it's not their fault. If you tell people to go out, they should be allowed to go out. But it's just being safe, that's all.
And those of you who have been in tune to CNN, you've seen that the numbers have really spiked for the age group 20 years to 44 years.
Yep.
So I think that's where many leaders, governors are pointing fingers at young people because they see the numbers higher in this population.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. Many senior citizens have been observing the lockdown since the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, and they are anxious to return to church and other aspects of their normal lives. What would you say to them?
Well, sorry, Grandma. Sorry, Grandpa. The main thing was that we know that everyone beyond the age of 65 is at high risk in general. So the point of putting lockdown was to make them not come in contact with others with it. Now, the good news is that lockdown works in that way. The bad news is that just like anything else, you do not develop immunity during lockdown. So when now you come out of lockdown, you're now more susceptible to get something. So now you have to mix again. It's the same thing. It's the reason why if you have young kids, when you put them outside the first time, they have allergies. But if you keep on putting them, they get used to it. So now we bring out the older folks, and then they will have more issues. That's why we need more gradual bringing out for that, more with family and everything else. The number one thing is we know, as we can see, I was talking earlier to you guys, and somebody brought up about Italy. Most of the infection was to the elderly folks in Italy, and it was really, really severe with that. The younger folks, like to your previous questions, are able to escape the hospitals, but the older folks, somehow they have to land in the hospital before they get better. So my advice to them is to keep on doing your recommendations at this time. Everything is step by step. We should go slow, but you will come out one day.
Amen.
There you go.
So we know that the church may remain closed, but the rest of the world, I don't know that the other businesses are going to be forced to go back, to close again. So for sure we're going to see numbers rise up. But do you think that this second surge is going to be as scary? Is the mortality rate going to be as high as the first surge that we had, a few months ago?
Okay, so excellent question. The second surge should be better controlled because of what we have learned from the first one. That is for sure. What we've learned from other countries or what we've learned from other states and the lockdown. And yes, no matter what we said, people have still been doing some of the recommendations. So the mortality, like you mentioned earlier, mortality is something that we would watch, but it should not be as high. Because right now, to tell you the truth, I think everybody's freaking out because it's more about the transmission right now. This second surge is more of transmission. Everybody has it. But the mortality is still staying steady right now. Horrible to say, but it is steady. So hopefully that's what we maintain and everything else. We just don't want to overwhelm the hospitals and things like that. That's why we do our lockdown.
So some school districts are discussing what to do about reopening. Is there anything that you would like to share with parents of school-aged children as it relates to going to school?
Well, yeah, the school is extremely difficult for those of us that have kids. Even without corona, you have to worry about strep and flu. And you know that if anything, any infection gets to a school, you know it's a wildfire spread. But you have to listen to the teachers and the administrators. I'll give them credit because I see some of them in my clinics, and they have been discussing this a lot. Because the teachers and the administrators, they also have kids and grandparents. They're not all, even if the governor announces stuff, it's still going to be a local control. Mansfield ISD is still going to make the decision. Arlington ISD is supposed to make the decision. and they have lots of options from them. They turn 180 to go online when they force them to lock down. So things like that can occur. But I say to everyone, it's still safety, safety, safety. If you don't send your kids to school, that's fine. If you do, make sure you follow the procedures. But you should follow your school leaders, because I think this time they will be better prepared.
And the major thing also is, if you have any symptoms, if you're feeling even the least bit sick, don't hesitate to get tested, or even to stay home for the safety of not just yourself, but for others. I think the big thing is being considerate of others. Sometimes we might have a little cough or a little cold here, and we think that, oh, it's nothing, but you never know. Even if, you have a little cough, a little cold here or there, that can possibly be the virus. It doesn't have to be the worst, the worst case or the worst presentation.
Right.
You don't have to be sick to the point where you can't walk, but even the smallest of the symptoms can, that virus can easily be shed to people in your community around you.
Yeah. So just piggyback on that, because she makes a good point, especially for school, because sometimes we still send people to school even when they have a fever. They'll say, oh, still go to school and all that stuff. That's the same point. Exactly. It's not just for the coronavirus, for flu,
Anything.
for anything. If you're a little bit sick, stay at home. Just in general. Hopefully this will teach us to do that, but we will diverge if we keep on going that way.
So what steps will the church take to protect members who come to worship?
Oh, excellent. The church has been meeting so far every week. Church council, the committee, trying to figure out what to do to protect the church. So as of right now, the online was the number one thing, which is excellent. It's been great. Attendance has actually been better than physical ahead, so which was amazing. But this is what happens when we change due to things that are beyond our control. And then the next step is the church is trying to gradually reopen, but they are taking into account what is going on in the outside world. That's why we still have the committee. That's why they're having inputs. That's why we're having the show. That's why we try to educate everyone else and bring up things. So the church is taking the necessary steps. But of course, nothing is ever perfect. And it is always, to me, the number one thing now is how do you physically reopen the best way possible.
And the church certainly cannot be ignorant to what is going on in the outside world. I know you guys have seen in the news other churches in other states that have still been congregating because of, faith. We have this faith that we are invincible and can't be touched by this virus, but it is very real that what is out in the world has also, affected the people in the church. We're not of the world, but we are in the world. So what are the measures that you would advise people to take to minimize the likelihood of contracting the virus?
Yeah, so it's the same thing we've been preaching all through this. Even you know about it. Wearing face masks, and even face masks. Even the government, the local government today has made it mandatory, or yesterday, Arlington, Dallas, Tarrant County, all the counties, to wear face masks when you're out and about. Social distancing, avoiding large crowds. Gloves is not as essential, because gloves, when we do gloves, we make the mistakes. I've seen people use the same gloves to do the same thing. Defeats the purpose. If you use gloves, you're supposed to change it every minute that you use it too, not gloves. Goggles, not really needed. Mask, number one is actually hand washing. Always wash your hands or use hand sanitizers for any little thing. No matter what you think, you're always touching your nose, touching your face. By mistake, it's just habits. But those things we know, if you do those things, you should get better and you should be safe and you should not get the virus, hopefully.
How long do you think that COVID-19, this whole crisis, is going to last?
We cannot put a timeline or a date to that. We're hoping we're going to have a vaccine by the end of the year, but like everything else, even for vaccines, we have a flu vaccine, but we still have the flu, right? So we hope that by next year we'll have better control of it. We don't know whether it's going to be ever disappear or just be there, but I think the number one thing we should try to do is learn to live with it.
Is there anything or medical supplies that people can donate to help the church during this pandemic time?
Oh yeah, so the church members have already been great, because we try to put out the word about donating things. And we always can do with face masks, hand sanitizers, especially soaps, face shields for the workers in church. Bleach, you can use bleach, because we can make our own cleaning supplies and things like that. Gloves, especially for those that are cleaning the church, the ushers, even for pastor, cleaning the microphone and everything else. So those are the things we look forward to. And even thermometers, like non-scanning thermometers, non-contact, to check temperatures of people walking in, just in case. If we ever get to a point where we're back to full bloom and we still have to check from time to time, that can help us in helping people that get sick.
So guys, we are still accepting donations. The church is still in need of masks, hand sanitizer, soap, because this is going to be our new normal. We're going to be washing our hands more than normal. We definitely need that. So if it's in your heart to drop it by the church, please feel free. Our address is 5015 New York Avenue in Arlington, Texas. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Jeff. Guys, this is going to be the new normal. So as he mentioned, once the church reopens, we do have to maintain that distance, and it's going to be different. It's not going to be what we're used to. You know, you come to church and you're ready to just love on everybody, but we just have to love from a distance. You understand? So, guys, we just appreciate this time. We'll be back again next week with more information for you. And Dr. Jeff, thank you again for your time. Guys, make sure to follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel. We're also on Facebook. We are also on Instagram. So make sure you follow, share, and comment as well. We love to engage with our members and even people in the community. Thank you.